So apparently the IOPC, during their investigation into child strip searches by the Metropolitan Police, have uncovered that the majority of 13 cases they were looking into were conducted without an appropriate adult present. The IOPC have even said that its request for information from the Met regarding searches of children have been delayed, causing more concern, and have said that due to this delay from the Met, it will now look into more cases to see if they were being handled properly. Now, when I say that IOPC were investigating 13 cases, what I actually mean is that the IOPC had uncovered 13 cases. They are said to be investigating 5 of the most serious ones, considering a further 3, and have asked the Met to investigate themselves on a further 6. Now, those were the numbers of children's cases being examined as of Monday, the 1st of August. However, it already seems that numbers have increased yet again by at least another 1. The current running total is approximately 800 children and young people being strip searched by the Metropolitan Police each year, with approximately a quarter of them said to be made to expose their intimate parts. Although I always thought a strip search meant exposing intimate parts anyway. I know there are different levels of strip search, one being the strip search itself, which requires removing all clothing, either at once or top half first then bottom half. This would, of course, expose intimate parts. And the other type of strip search is an intimate search, where body orifices are examined, and I don't think I need to go into explanation on that. However, both types of search must be carried out in a place of privacy with an appropriate adult present. If a child or young that's a child or young person under the age of 17, and away from the eyes of those of the opposite sex. Something that the Metropolitan Police seem to have forgotten in many cases. Although I believe an intimate search you must give your consent, which you can refuse, according to Stuart Miller solicitors, but the police must tell you that your refusal might hurt your case, but you can refuse, according to the firm Stuart Miller. Whereas a strip search does not require consent and your clothing can be forcibly removed. You can only be strip searched without an appropriate adult if you're 17 and under, if you give your consent to forego the appropriate adult's presence in the presence of the appropriate adult. In other words, the appropriate adult must be present when you tell the police that you don't want the appropriate adult there for the actual search. Going back to intimate parts exposed, in both an intimate search and a strip search, this is the case. So not sure how they get around, or how they get the number of around a quarter of the 800 children and young people strip searched to have been made to expose their intimate parts. It should be all of them. Most recently, it seems the strip search of 2 16-year-old boys has come to light who were strip searched in 2020 without an appropriate adult present, one in Ilford and one in Bethnal Green police stations. And there doesn't seem to be any indication that these 2 boys were from minority groups. In fact, the stories that I've read don't mention colour at all, which we all know generally means that they were white. As we all know, the mainstream media love to play on the colour aspect of a person, unless it's a honky. IOPC Director General Michael Lockwood said, "We have been concerned about what we have seen in the cases referred to us involving complaints about strip searches of children, and we are acting now by making recommendations, stressing that existing best practice and policies should be followed by the MPS at all times. Given the apparent delay in some of these cases being referred to us, we will now work with the Metropolitan Police Service to review a sample of complaints that have not been referred to us, to establish whether the process is working as it should, and to establish whether the Metropolitan Police Service are hiding anything, hopefully. I have also written to the National Police Chief Council to highlight these concerns and our recommendations so these can be shared with other forces. I have proposed a meeting between ourselves and relevant policing leads to discuss how we can work together to ensure this important learning is shared and seek assurance that relevant policies are being applied in other forces. By coming together in this way, I hope we can address increasing concerns about the use of strip search powers in England and Wales, in order to provide assurance that they are only being used when absolutely essential. The Metropolitan Police said that since April, officers have undergone additional training around child strip searches and that an inspector now has to give permission for one to be carried out. Deputy Assistant Commissioner Lawrence Taylor, leading this work in the Metropolitan Police, said, "Ensuring the safeguarding of every child who is a subject to a search is an absolute priority." Well, it is now. It's been ousted that you're a bunch of cretinous child abusers. What happened to child Q was truly a regrettable incident, and we have apologised publicly to her family and the wider community. We understand how much concern this incident has caused and how distressed child Q has been. We have been listening to the views of our communities and partners and have already made changes as we balance the policing need for this type of search with the considerable impact it can have on young people. We will continue to liaise with the IOPC to discuss what more we need to do, particularly around reminding officers again of the very important requirement for an appropriate adult to be present during searches. A common theme in cases we have voluntarily referred to the IOPC and one we must address. If you just read and learn Section 5 of PACE, the Police and Criminal Evidence Act, and do what it fucking says, then this would not be happening. I seriously don't quite understand how police need additional training. All of the rules are in the Police and Criminal Evidence Act, and that was only updated in 2019, meaning that since there was an update, police should be informed of this, they should study this, and then they should be tested on it. I go back to my example the other day about the health and hygiene certificate when working in a kitchen, and how you have to take that regularly, and how if there were updates to it, you have to learn those updates, or you could kill somebody. I mean, apart from the fact most of it is common sense anyway, so the police conducting these searches should be able to offer some respect to the victims of their abuse. The senior officers who have failed to ensure the lowly plod know the rules are just to blame as the idiot plod who conducted the searches. In many cases, not even for a genuine policing purpose, but as a punishment for upsetting their fifis during an interaction. Surely this has to be the icing on the cake for the government to step in and sort this out properly. Rapes, murders, discriminatory behaviour, child abuse. What will it take for the police to do before it's time for a complete overhaul? But let's remember, while everyone's eyes are on the Met, it's not just the Metropolitan Police who get away with this behaviour. So let's not be fooled, and let's not take our eye off the ball, ignoring things that happen in other police forces.